Testing. Okay, good evening, everybody. The regular meeting of the Cape May City Planning Board is now in session. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. Should any member of this board have reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of that act, they shall so state at this time. Hearing none, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, roll call.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Bezaire? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Riggs?
Here.
Mr. Crowley?
Here.
Mr. Gorgone? Mayor Mullick?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Here.
Mrs. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Lenholm?
Here.
Mr. Paducis?
Here.
Mr. Crippen?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the resolution number 722, 2025. One Avenue LLC, 6 Second Avenue. Any motion to approve the resolution?
I make the motion.
Second.
Mrs. Reed motions, Mr. Lenholm seconds. Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Lenholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Mr. Paducis?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Bezaire?
Abstaining.
Thank you.
We have resolution number 722, 2025, master plan consistency review regarding regulations of pools. Need a motion to adopt that?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Deputy Mayor McDade motions, Mr. Jones seconds. Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Your turn, Ted.
Your turn.
Somebody hit me.
Well, that's not a problem.
Oh, come on. That was a rhetorical statement. Yes, I do approve this.
Thank you. Mr. Lenholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Mr. Paducis?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bezaire?
Yes. And we have minutes of the June 10th and June 24th. We need to take them both separately because I have to abstain on one of those. So the June 10th meeting,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Riggs motions. Is that Mrs. Reed that second? Mrs. Reed seconds. Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes,
Mr.
I have a question before I vote it, though. And Karen, is this the meeting where we had a discussion on the HPC giving us documentation on applications? Or was that the other meeting we have? And I didn't see that reference in either of the minutes.
No, I think that was a previous meeting that wasn't in June. I don't think the HPC came in June.
No, it was an applicant that had said he had gotten approval from the HPC, and he didn't have the documentation, we didn't have it, and
That was the jetty.
That was June.
That was June.
That was,
June.
Yes, that was in June. I remember because I believe I asked the question along with you, Mr. Crowley.
I think it was the first meeting in June.
Yeah, June,
And was
first
it not the
meeting.
Jetty Motel?
No,
it
No?
was not.
the
Oh,
one before.
okay.
Yeah.
And it was basically, I think the board wanted to see some sort of documentation that they received HPC approval before coming in front of this board, and there was a discussion that ensued with that.
Or at the least documentation of HPC conceptual approval or whatever they gave, right?
Yes.
Could we hold these minutes to make sure that the minutes include that? I think I'd like to see that on the record.
okay, so you want me to revise the minutes to include that the discussion about the HPC application?
Yes.
Okay, I will happily do that. So we won't vote.
I
So-
revised my motion to include that.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
okay, so I will continue calling the vote. So Mr. Crowley is yes.
Yes, is yes with that change.
With the adjustment, okay. Mr. Lenholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Mr. Paducis?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bezaire?
Abstain from that one.
Thank you.
So we have minutes of June 24th.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Jones motions, Deputy Mayor McDade seconds. Mayor Mullick,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Crowley.
Yes.
Mr. Lundholm.
Yes.
Mr. Riggs.
Yes.
Mr. Bedusis. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Becerra.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the application 415 Washington Street LLC, Block 1043, Lot 1, site plan, preliminary, final with the variance.
Mr. Ammenhauser, before you begin, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. In your resolutions, you have 7/22/2025 as the first resolution. The second resolution, you have 07/2022/2025. It's my recommendation that your records reflect.
It does have a :1 and :2.
Okay, so this, maybe we need to just get a clarification. Is that the date?
Correct.
Okay.
That's a great-
So, and the one,
Sir.
the :1 and :2 is the way you distinguish them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure before I went home.
Yes, and
and
you're,
awake
want to
at
make
3
sure you're on
o'clock
your
in the morning.
toes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, would you like a motion to recognize Mr. Baldini as our conflict solicitor, or do you need that?
I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay.
If you'd like to do it, make the motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to recognize Mr. Baldini as our conflict solicitor this evening.
But we're not appointing him as a conflict attorney. He happens to be for tonight.
Just for tonight, yes, correct.
I promise to go home. Not yet,
Just
right.
just second on Jason's motion?
I'll make that motion.
For
Ma-
Second, I'm
sake of
sorry.
brevity, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you want to,
Yes, I'm ready to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Amenhauser, the DeWeese Law Firm, here this evening on behalf of the applicant, 413 to 415 Washington Street LLC. The entity is the contract purchaser of the property located at same address, 413 to 415 Washington Street. The current owner of the property is Mr. Daniel Casal. There was a certification of owner provided with the application, allowing the applicant to bring this application tonight. The property is identified as Lot 1 in Block 1043 of the City of Cape May. It's located in your C1 Primary Business District, and it is a contributing property in the Historic District. Conceptual approval from the HPC was received prior to coming to the board this evening. Final will be sought, hopefully after approval this evening from this body. Currently, the property is developed with a 3-story mixed-use structure. The current configuration of that structure is retail and storage on the first floor, with storage, retail, and a residential apartment on the second floor, and another residential apartment on the third floor. If approved this evening, the project will result in retail on the first and second floor of the building, with 1 residential apartment on the third floor, thus reducing residential density from 2 to 1 and increasing the retail space on the first and second floor. Here with us this evening is the professional engineer and architect, John Halbruner, of the Highland Group. I know Mr. Halbruner's been before the board often, but I'm
Yep.
happy to elicit credentials if needed.
not necessary?
All right, and then Mr. Daniel Uffelman. Danny is a 50% member in the applicant entity, so he's here should the board have any questions of him today as well. You swear the two of them at this time?
He's probably 49%.
Mr. Halbrenner, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth before the board here tonight?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and spell your last name and your business address.
Sure. John Halbruner, Halbruner. Business address is 4 Claremont Drive, Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey, and I'm both a project engineer and architect on the subject application.
Thank you. Mr. Upperman, is it?
Uffelman.
Uppelman. Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth before the board here tonight?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please give us your name, spell your last name and your address.
Daniel
hand,
Uffelman.
relax.
Yeah. Uffleman, 219 North Street, Cape May.
Before I turn it over to you, Mr. Ammenhauser, Mr. Hurlis, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth before the board here tonight?
I do.
Thank you. Please give us your name and your position with the board.
Craig R. Hurlis. I am the board planner and engineer.
Thank you, sir. Floor is yours, Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. John, if you can, I know I just went over some of the internal features of the property. Can you give the current makeup of the use and what we're intending to do through the application?
Absolutely, and I'm actually going to make one correction to your introduction statements.
Why don't you put this microphone in front of you?
Karen, can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry, we don't have as many microphones tonight. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay now?
Possible, so it comes through the speakers like when I talk?
How's this?
That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Okay, well, one slight correction to Mr. Emenhauser's opening introduction. There is in fact residential use on the second and third floor, but it is one apartment unit that is split between the two floors. It's not two units, so the existing density is one unit that covers two different floors. Backing up for a second, as Mr. Emenhauser introduced, it is a mixed-use building, 3 stories in height. The ground floor is Casale Shoe Store. It's predominantly the retail floor space on the ground, along with some storage area. On the second floor, there's storage area for the retail facility, and the front half of that, the front that's on Washington Street, is a bedroom and a family room as part of the apartment, along with a set of internal stairs that take you to the third floor, where there's 2 additional bedrooms, kitchen, family room, dining room. The property is known as Block, thought I had that, I don't. Bear with me. For the record, the block and lot is 1043, Lot 1, street address of 4313-15 Washington Street. The property dimensions, get back to my notes here. It's a 31-foot by 82-foot long lot containing 2,542 square feet. It is fronting both on the Washington Street pedestrian mall as a public right-of-way, a pedestrian easement immediately to our east, and then Lyle Lane to the rear. So on 3 sides, we're abutting public land, and then immediately to our west is another retail facility. We are located in the C1 primary business district, as is all of our neighbors. The building was originally constructed around 1967. It's masonry on the first floor, a wood frame above that, and it's in relatively sound condition. It's not historically significant. In fact, it's not even very sympathetic to Cape May's Victorian vernacular. We're looking to make some changes with that with the proposed renovations. The building occupies pretty much the entirety of the lot, except for a 13-foot rear yard setback, which I call the rear, that which fronts on Lyle Lane. Any questions about the existing conditions?
So John, knowing the existing conditions, what are we looking to change here related to this application?
Actually, there's probably one very notable existing condition I ought to note before I talk about the proposed condition, and that would be the absence of parking. In the existing conditions, the parking demand would be 7.2 spaces, derived by the formulas within your ordinance for the amount of parking for open retail space and RSI's requirements. Number of parking spaces on site today is 0. They're simply non-available and none exist. With that in mind, yes.
Do you have any documentation that the existing non-conforming parking allotment was ever the subject of a variance?
I don't. I can tell you the building's been there since 1967, and certainly eclipses the 20-year mark your ordinance recognizes as being a recognized grandfathered condition.
Okay.
To the, what we're proposing to do through the application, John, what are we looking to change within the building?
Okay, the building footprint itself will stay essentially the same. We're looking to substantially renovate both the interior and the exterior of the building. In substance, we're going to be converting the entire second floor into retail space. We're also going to take the first floor, which is mostly retail but some storage, and making that entirely retail space. So in the end, we will maintain entirely retail space on the first and second floor. The third floor, which is residential today, will remain a residential unit. Density of residential stays the same, 1-for-1, but the area of the apartment gets reduced. We're taking the entire second story and making that part of retail. Substantively, interior-wise, we are eliminating the steps that lead from the apartment to the exterior. Presently, they discharge directly onto the Washington Street Mall. We much prefer that to be a commercial presence, so we're taking that door and putting it on the back of the Lyle Street side. We are introducing a new elevator and introducing a new open interior stair between the first and second floors. The number of bedrooms for the apartment with the reduction area goes from 3 down to 2. And again, the entire first and second floor will be retail space.
So there's no storage?
I'm sorry?
No storage?
There's incidental closets here and there, but there's no dedicated storage room. And I say small closets on the order of less than 20 square feet.
John, when we talk about the variance relief that we need here, you mentioned already number of parking spaces off-street that are required. We also need a variance for lot coverage, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, aside from those two variances, do you see the need to ask for any others this evening?
No, none whatsoever. Even the lot coverage, I think it's a highly technical variance because the lot coverage that exists today is what we're proposing to maintain. We're not exasperating it, increasing it, or improving it. It's simply that which it is today is what we propose it to be tomorrow.
Okay.
And the parking variance, which I'll get in a little more detail with, is necessary because your ordinance drives the number of parking space demand based upon the use of the spaces. A residence space is derived, those parking requirements are derived from RSIS. Presently, we have a 3-bedroom apartment, which requires 2 parking spaces. We are proposing a 2-bedroom apartment, which requires 1 space. So on the plus side, we're reducing the demand of the existing facility by 1. But where it goes in the wrong direction for us is the second part of the parking demand for this is that related to the retail. Your ordinance bases upon 1 parking space for every 200 square feet of retail floor area. You may remember my earlier testimony, we're converting almost the entire retail space into sales floor area, and we're increasing it to include both the first and second floor. So our retail sales floor area has gone up by, in total, about 1,000 square feet. And that increases technically at least, the parking demand. We go from requiring 7 parking spaces today, or 7.2, rounding down to 7, to needing 17 in the proposed condition.
Does that include employee parking?
I'm sorry?
Does that include employee parking?
Your ordinance is derivative on the retail floor area. I don't
Also
think.
driven on employee parking as well.
Okay, then whatever employee parking requirements are is deficient today and will remain deficient in the proposed conditions.
Well, you're increasing the number of employees, obviously, so you're going to be increasing the number of parking spaces.
That would be a fair assumption, yes.
So John, when you consider those two variances, is it your professional opinion they could be granted under the C1 hardship criteria?
Absolutely.
And with that being the case, what are the unique characteristics of this lot that you see that would justify relief under that standard?
Well, to begin with, we're dealing with an existing building. So if you look at the 2 variances that we're seeking, we'll start with the lot coverage. An existing building fully developed with no additional land, and we're not seeking to make any exterior improvements outside the building facade. So it would be a pretty difficult, an exceptional practical difficulty to the applicant to force compliance of lot coverage. It would actually require removal of part of the building. And that just doesn't seem to make any sense for anyone. In terms of the parking, the ability for us to provide parking at all, let alone compliant parking, simply doesn't exist with the limited lot area. We have 2,500 square foot and change in lot area. It simply isn't enough room to have a retail facility or even a residential facility and provide compliant parking.
Mr. Ammenheiser, let me stop you for a minute.
Sure.
So I'm just taking a look at your application. Your application, not yours, personal, in a personal sense,
I understand.
does not request a C1 variance.
We can provide testimony under C2 as well. I think it makes sense for us to ask for it under C1 the more that we evaluate this.
So are you asking this board to accept an amendment to your application?
If they'd be willing to do so, and I believe the notice indicated that we'd ask for any and all other
I was looking for that.
variances.
Is that the case?
Find it, just give me 1 second. Let's see. Yes. Number 6, applicant may also ask for any other such variance, relief, exception, waivers, permits, approvals, or licenses deemed necessary or appropriate.
And you'll submit an amended application to the board?
We could do that,
So,
requesting it under C1.
Members of the board, I leave it up to you. Its applicant has requested an opportunity to amend his application. Generally speaking, amendments are liberally accepted by the courts, but it's your discretionary call. Mr. Chair?
I think we'll abide by your advice.
Could you explain the amendment?
Sure. If you were to take a look at the applicant's application, it's on page I guess it'd be 3 of the application. Applicant is required to advise this board and the public in advance of the application being heard what type of relief the applicant is seeking under the municipal land use law. In this particular case, the applicant has indicated they're seeking variance relief, and the section that is checked off is substantial benefit, which is we sometimes refer to as a C2 criteria. He did not ask for a hardship variance, which you're now hearing testimony relative to a hardship variance. So I just want to make sure before we move forward and your board votes on applications, you know what you're hearing. So if the applicant wants this board to hear a C1 variance application, they have to amend their application. And that's,
Does the hardship variance pertain only to the lot coverage or also to the parking?
so Mr. Halbrenner testified that in his opinion, it applies both to the lot coverage and to the parking criteria.
Is that your position?
That's the testimony I provided, and I will also, in light of Mr. Baldini's bringing this to the forefront, provide testimony in support of a C2 variance as originally applied for.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but before we go forward, I think you should know what you're hearing. So I've interrupted his case, which I rarely do, but I did in this case because I want to make sure that it's on the table that you're either hearing the C1 variance or you're not. And there'll be a separate vote on them. So you're starting to talk about is whether or not you think the testimony will meet the C1 criteria based upon what you've heard relative to parking. That's a different issue. The issue to only before the board right now is, do you want to hear the C1 criteria argument by the applicant? And if so, you should allow the amendment to the application. I will tell you, generally, courts are liberal in allowing these amendments, particularly where the advertisement by the applicant is broad enough to cover the type of variance sought by the applicant.
And that's the public disclosure.
Yes.
May I-
Yeah,
sir?
and C1 in particular, in C2, they would not be so liberal with a D variance.
Right.
Just a question. Mr. Hurlis, are you comfortable that you were, when you did the review for this application, to consider this amendment now?
Yeah, so I noted that it was, they only checked off the C2 on the front cover. You look
Okay.
at the status, it shows C2. So I noticed that. But as a planner, typically, we try and justify it under both the C1 and C2
Okay.
criteria if we can, and we can find those proofs because it helps our case.
Okay.
So
All right.
I,
Just wanna make
I
sure
don't
you're
have an
comfortable.
issue with
All
them
right.
proceeding under both the C1 and C2.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, do we need a motion or just we're good?
If I get a consensus of the board that you seem good with it, we'll proceed. So
Yeah.
I think that's the feeling I'm getting here from the board. So you'll submit a revised application to the board.
To indicate C1 as well as C2.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
will
you.
do. Thank you. So, John, just to harken back there to your C1 criteria.
Sure.
So the basis that you believe exists for granting relief under C1 relates to the existing improvements on the lot and inability to really fit adequate off-street parking and/or to comply with lot coverage based on those existing conditions, correct?
Exactly. The C1 criteria, where the board may grant a C1 variance by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the lot, which I think applies in this case, as well as the extraordinary exceptional situation uniquely affecting a piece of property, and here's the part that I want to underscore, structures legally existing thereon. We have a legally existing structure that has this nonconformity in terms of lot coverage and the inability in terms of it being shallow and narrow to provide parking, both of which create a unique hardship upon the applicant where forced compliance would result in undue hardship.
Okay.
So I think that establishes the positive criteria under C1.
Okay.
There's a negative component that we must satisfy. For the sake of brevity, I'd like to address the positive criteria under C2 because the negative criteria applies equally to both.
So knowing that, what purposes of zoning, if any, do you believe would be promoted under the C2 criteria if this application were approved?
Usually, the clearest way to start talking about the positives are to reflect back upon the purposes of the municipal land use law and how those purposes may be advanced by the subject application. Now, before I get into the technical dissertation of that, just looking very briefly at what are the positive effects that this development may have. First of all, the Washington Street Mall is certainly one of the crown jewels of Cape May. It demands to have commercial vitality to be successful. And this not only preserves commercial use, it expands it, which is certainly promoting one of the major commercial attractions of Cape May. I'll tie that into one purpose shortly. The second benefit is if you take opportunity to review the elevations and plans that were submitted as part of the application, I think you're going to recognize a significantly dramatic increase in the building aesthetics on all sides visible to the public. So the enhancement to the character of the mall is dramatic, and the enhancement to the streetscape and aesthetic improvement is going to be dramatic. Those are two very big positives that result from this application. Taking those positives now and tying them back to purposes of the municipal land use law that are advanced by them, I'm going to refer to subsections by paragraph number for your ease of reference for those who keep the list in front of you. Under subparagraph A, the purposes of municipal land use law is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use of land development in a manner which promotes the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Again, promoting and enhancing the Washington Street Mall is certainly promoting the morals and general welfare of the neighborhood and the city of Cape May. Moving next to subparagraph G, which is purposes to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses according to the respective requirements of New Jersey citizens. And I abbreviated some of that just for the sake of brevity. But again, you've established the commercial zone for commercial purposes. We are promoting that by taking what is now residential and making it more commercial, advancing that purpose. And lastly, subparagraph I, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative techniques and good civic design and arrangement. Again, the aesthetic enhancement that occurs through
That was I. That was the third.
yes. The aesthetic enhancement to both the building and the neighborhood is extreme. Casals is a kind of an institution. I remember going there as a kid myself, but it's not a particularly attractive building. And that if you look at the renderings of the transformation this building is about to undergo, it's going to be dramatic. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So those are purposes of the municipal land use law that tie into the benefits I described that all pile up on the balancing scale of the C2 criteria where you have to measure the positives versus the negatives.
And in terms of the negatives, John, do you see any potential detriment to the public good of the zone plan or ordinance if the board were inclined to grant the application?
Absolutely not. We got to take these again one at a time. The variance we're seeking for lot coverage, the potential adverse effect that you have for lot coverage variances typically has to do with stormwater runoff. In this situation, we're doing nothing to exacerbate a condition that has existed since the 1960s. So it's difficult to imagine there being an adverse impact to the neighborhood, let alone one that rises to the level of being substantial, based on the fact this is an existing condition that has existed for years and is entirely consistent with coverages of all the lots in the Washington Street Mall, which were our neighbors. So I can't see any substantial detriment to the public good for that, nor an impairment to the purpose of the zone plan as it relates to lot coverage. Taking the second variance, that would be parking. The potential impact, adverse impact of parking is that there's not going to be adequate parking to serve the facility. In context, we're dealing with a mall that is 3 blocks long with commercial spaces. I won't try and estimate the total gross floor area of commercial uses on the 3-block stretch. But I can tell you that we're increasing our commercial retail floor area, which is the driver of parking demand by the ordinance, by 1,000 square feet. That is truly a drop in the bucket compared to the gross floor area of the entire mall. Our patrons are by and large going to be pedestrians already on the mall. Certainly, there's going to be a destination for some, for which then may become patrons for other people on the mall. So while we are technically increasing parking demand, we're not doing so in a manner that is significant in any way that would cause a significant adverse impact to the neighborhood. So I think if you balance the positives I just discussed and pile them up on one side of the scale and you measure it against the virtually non-existent negatives on the other side of the scale, in my opinion, it's overwhelmingly in favor of the positive, thus supporting the C2 variance criteria.
Now, John, in addition to the variance relief, we've asked for a number of checklist and site plan waivers as well. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you go over those and provide a professional opinion as to whether you believe they're to be justified?
Absolutely. So a couple submission requirements that we are seeking waivers for, predominantly because unlike a new site plan, which involves a new building or even a substantial addition to an existing building, the things that go along with site plans don't really apply in this case. For example, one of the waivers we request are plans and profiles of utility layouts. The utilities are in place. We're looking to add one new utility, and that is a fire suppression system necessary for the new second floor retail. These utilities are already in place. The next waiver we request is for calculations for drainage facilities. Again, we're not proposing any modifications or changes to the drainage flow patterns or coverages. So it seems appropriate to seek a waiver from providing calculations for something that you're not providing. Third would be a landscape plan. The property today is virtually devoid of landscaping, and there's no room for new landscaping, and we're not proposing any. So we're seeking a waiver from the requirement to provide a landscaping plan. The next two I'll kind of lump together. I won't separate them. The next one would be environmental impact statement. We're seeking a waiver from the requirement to submit an environmental impact statement. We are taking and renovating an existing building in the same footprint. We're not making any site improvements or any site changes, so there can certainly be no impact to the environment. And as such, a waiver from providing a statement to that effect seems appropriate. The last submission requirement we're seeking a waiver for would be the traffic impact statement. Again, we're adding 1,000 square feet of retail space to a mall. The impact of that is inconsequential and negligible. So the impact does not warrant doing a traffic study, in my opinion.
Understood. John, before we turn it over, any other testimony you'd like to place on the record related to the proposed development here?
No, I think I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
I have a question. In your presentation, you argued, I think, if I heard it right, that it is consistent with the municipal land use laws, the variances you're asking for?
I identified 3 stated purposes of the municipal land use law that I believe are advanced.
Why do you suppose, is the land use law, does it include parking requirements?
No, land use law does not specify parking requirements. Your ordinance specifies parking requirements.
Okay, why do you suppose that is? What would be the reason for parking requirements?
In terms of your ordinance,
Yeah. Well, we use the RESA standard for our parking ordinances, so that's a state standard.
Not for commercial, we don't. RSIS is residential only,
Okay. Well, we do have it for commercial. Now, why did we do that?
because there are other areas of town that are commercial that may require parking, and because in some cases, it's okay to not require it because of the nature of the neighborhood. And you can't, I mean, as with any ordinance, Dennis, you make a generalized ordinance, and then you try to apply it specifically to different individual properties, and they don't always meld.
Yeah, they very seldom mesh, frankly.
Yeah, in some cases, I don't even know why we have them, quite frankly.
That's a good point. Well, I'd like to talk about that a little later. Thank you.
yeah, and I mean, your ordinance, and I don't mean to tear it apart, but your ordinance allows 90% building coverage, lot coverage. You can't have a building that covers 90% of a lot, particularly one in the Washington Street Mall,
Yeah, it does-
and then provide parking at a rate of 1 for 200 square feet. It's simply impossible. So I don't dismiss the parking demands in Cape May, as in any shore town, is always a struggle. I submit to you by this application that while we technically are advancing the parking demand by your ordinance definition, pragmatically, we're not. We're not doing anything to exasperate it. And furthermore, if we were to make an attempt to provide you parking on site, it would be at the expense of existing street parking. So we actually advanced the plan early on that provided a couple on-site parking spaces. Doing so required elimination of on-street parking. Who wins there?
I have a question. I have actually 3 questions. You mentioned that the footprint is not changing.
Correct.
In the first iteration of the plan off of Lyle Lane, the I guess the structure at ground floor level was being pushed in?
Correct.
Is that not being proposed now?
That is not
So
proposed now.
that's going to remain? So there is a reconfiguration of that entryway there?
Yes, currently, Casals has entries off both Lyle Lane and off of the Washington Street Mall.
Okay.
And it's a traditional 1970s indented, recessed doorway. We are, on the Lyle Lane side, closing it off entirely. It's within the footprint of the building above, so we're not
Okay.
increasing the overall aerial footprint, but we are increasing the ground floor area on the Lyle Lane side. On the Washington Street Mall side, we still have a slightly recessed entryway, but not as deep as the existing one, so we are slightly decreasing that.
Great.
But again, the overall building footprint has not changed. We're doing it all within the confines of the overall footprint.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. After seeing the first iteration, I wasn't sure whether that was remaining or not, so, okay. The second question is, retail is a very, very general use. Do we have a specific user, a specific type of retail, or is it just general retail, a user to be found?
May I answer for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This application is being customly developed for a particular tenant, particular owner and operator, Queen Mary Jewelry.
Okay,
And the
So-
entire fit-out, layout, design, the aesthetics, signage, all is tailored towards that specific
Okay.
tenant. Or operator, I should say, the tenant operator.
and my third question, it's pretty evident that there's existing retail there. Casals has, been functioning and utilized. How did you establish the fact that there is an existing three-bedroom apartment there? Is it being utilized now? Has it been discontinued in use? There is this area and the mall area has been a study of the last master plan reexamination in which we recognize there are numerous existing illegal apartments, non-approved. So there's nothing in your application, that there's no resolution of approval or mercantile license or anything. So I'm just asking, for the board's pleasure, how did you establish that there is an existing three-bedroom apartment in that structure?
I'll answer that first from saying that I've walked the property, I've measured the property, I've identified that it is undisputably a apartment with three bedrooms. In terms of the legality of the existing non-conforming condition, I can offer you, I'm hoping Mr. Engelhauser has a response a little more positive than that.
We don't have a mercantile license at this point. I know there wasn't one provided. We can request, but I don't have anything further related to the legality of that existing.
The Casals lived there.
Correct, yes.
There was never need for a mercantile license. The owners
The
of the
owner
store
operated,
lived there.
And Daniel's
Owner
there now.
Right.
What's the use of these two apartments? What's that going to
There's
be?
only one
It's a
apartment.
single apartment.
There's one apartment.
Oh, no, two-bedroom apartment. Was that going to be for rent, were the owners going to live there like the Casells did, or no?
When are we talking? Oh, Mr. Crowley, are you asking for now or in the future?
Well, what's their plan?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. No, you said the Casells live there now, or did anyway. Yeah.
The mother did.
You're just going to have to provide. Dan, all right.
Oh, yeah.
This is Mr. Uffelman. If you made a definitive plan as to how you intend to utilize the third floor, we're proposing as a residential use on the third floor. Do you know how you're going to use that?
Yeah, really to be determined, but we just want to keep it what it is existing.
Please define residential, because residential is you live there, or residential is...
Residential being non-commercial, correct?
No, let me clarify further. Is it going to be rented as a short-term rental, transient, or is it residential in the sense that someone will live in that accommodation year-round?
Have you made a determination in that regard as of yet? I know you don't own the property yet, but have you determined how you're going to utilize that space?
Currently, we plan to use it ourselves.
And you would make that a condition of the
You
application?
really can't do that.
No, I
You
don't want to
can't-
make it a
You can't
condition.
limit a residential property to being a rental or not a rental. The use is residential. We cannot restrict the residential use to,
Well, it does make a difference in the application, and in my opinion, in looking at this, because if it's being used for short-term, then the impact of parking is greater
Yes.
than for someone who is living there So that does make a difference in my view in how I would view this application, so. yeah.
From an ownership perspective, a apartment over a commercial use is a permitted use. The form of ownership is immaterial as far as the use goes. In consideration of the parking variance, I think it matters.
Yes.
They're saying it's an existing owner's quarters. That means that owner is residing in there, and he's using it as a place of business. There's no parking turnover, you're not having trips to and from the site, certainly has less impact on traffic situation and traffic flow. If it's going to be a short-term rental, obviously you have people coming from out of town to try and find parking in a congested area that doesn't have very much parking in it. So it's a different situation. This is the discussion that we had in the master plan reexamination with regards to this. The master plan recognizes that a lot of those apartments have not become usable or essentially approved as permitted uses because they can't accommodate the parking. In the master plan reexamination, discussed that, we've discussed that, we recognize that that's a situation in that neighborhood. Now, we also recommended that, that those apartments may be more beneficial for workforce housing because those employees need somewhere to live. We recognize that that may be more palatable because that type of use has less of a parking demand. They ride their bikes. They would just have to travel downstairs from their apartment and be a pedestrian on their way to work. So the difference in the usage of that matters with respect to I think, the balancing test or the evaluation of the parking variance. So that's my planning.
You just argued in my.
I'm not making an argument.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm saying
What you
it's
did was-
a consideration
you
of the parking
validated my-
variance,
my-
right?
My thought along this.
So if the applicant is willing to make that a condition of approval in support of the variance, then they may do that.
Also because you've also indicated, Mr. Hurlis, in your review, that a traffic impact report, you would, may be appropriate a waiver. Well, now if we're talking about short-term rental as opposed to long-term, as you've just indicated, then a traffic impact study might be warranted, if we're not sure.
So typically, with regards to the checklist waiver for the traffic impact statement, I am supportive of granting that. The way that if you look through the information that's required for that checklist item, it more relates to circulation, signalization, lane widths, et cetera. So if you were proposing a large development and the street that it abutted was insufficiently wide, then you would ask for that stuff.
Okay, understood.
What we probably should have in our checklist is more of a parking assessment, because we run into that. We
Why
run
bother?
into that condition way more often than we run into this traffic impact report. So I'm supportive of granting that waiver.
Mr. Hurlis, just a note too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that existing presently for residential use, for as long as it has, as was testified to earlier by Mr. Halberner, I'm not sure that there'd be anything in place right now that would prevent the current owner from leasing that out to short-term rentals. I don't think there's anything that would prohibit him from doing that right now.
I can't definitively say that that's,
Yeah,
we have no evidence that it exists or, approved as, however it was
Right.
approved. That's why I asked the question. I'm
As to whether-
unsure.
Yeah.
Because it's a hodgepodge of approved, non-approved, illegal apartments over there.
And Mr. Halberner, your testimony is that the configuration of that building, as far as you're aware, has been in place predating at least the parking ordinance, but for quite some time, correct?
Well, yes, the building itself was built in 1967. While I had no direct knowledge of when the apartment was created, I could tell you by looking at the types of finishes and the decor, that it has existed since the 1970s.
Okay.
I guess, would it be fair to say that that apartment has never been subjected to the standards that we now have on the books for review and approval of residential rentals? Because it's never been a residential rental, is that right?
I don't think any of us could speak to it. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
But if it were to be a residential rental, it would be subjected to inspections, fire inspections, mercantile license reviews, and all the rest of that.
yes, it would be, yes.
Right.
Can I ask a question about the elevator with that third floor? I don't know if I didn't understand the diagrams. The elevator does the 3 floors.
It does.
So you only get access to the upstairs by getting into the store? Or if people are coming in and shopping in the store, how would they have access to taking the elevator up to the 3rd floor? How is that working?
You could turn the key off, so you could limit it to just 2 floors with your elevator. So you could make it so it operates to all 3 floors, or you could turn it off to just 2 floors.
And the apartment
Please make
has
sure you're on the
access-
mic when you speak. Thank you.
The apartment will also have, on Lyle Lane, there's a door to go up to that apartment. That's going to remain?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Ammenheiser, I'm not
Yes.
sure that I caught exactly where you were on the position, the short-term, long-term, and applicant use of the property. So why don't you get some testimony from the applicant as to what his intended use is, so that the board, when it
No,
discusses the matter, will be clear. I'm not sure
The
it's
applicant,
clear in my mind.
what I was referring to was what the current owner, in my opinion, could do right now.
Okay, I understand.
Not the proposed use. The testimony that was provided was that he intends to utilize it himself, but he doesn't, nothing as part of this application was intended to limit that. So as we didn't agree as a condition of approval to limit that to just personal
Okay.
use.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand.
Sure.
So, board members, you understand, right?
I got it.
Okay.
We want to leave it exactly the way it is, currently used, so,
But smaller.
yeah, it's true, but smaller.
So, our understanding of the way it is, it's used as a apartment for living quarters for the owner of the property who runs the store downstairs.
Absolutely,
Okay.
but with no limits on him leaving tomorrow and going to get a mercantile license and renting it.
Okay.
So it's just going to be exactly the way it is.
Okay,
So,
and that's,
but-
if I could just interrupt for a second, so that's not exactly how it's being used today, though. If you're going to now propose to rent it out.
I never said I
that's-
was going to, but
Hey, John.
I'm just trying to understand, because I'm,
Some question. So, John, I think just to try to get across what Danny's looking to get across, the current use of that 3rd floor is purely residential, correct?
It is.
Okay. We're talking about reducing the amount of,
And half the 2nd floor.
right, but I'm focusing solely really on the 3rd floor right now, because that's what we're proposing to remain as residential, correct?
We are, yes, be taking that as residential.
We're also talking about reducing bedrooms in that 3rd floor, correct?
No, we're talking about reducing
Overall,
bedrooms
overall,
overall,
sorry.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we're keeping the residential component in that property that exists now, correct?
We are.
Okay. Now, whether it's owner-occupied, short-term rentals, however it is used, theoretically, it's a residential use right now, right?
It is and will be maintained as such.
Thank you. We're going to keep it as a residential use.
Correct. And a residential use that, from a parking demand perspective, the demand's been reduced. By reducing the number of bedrooms, so is the parking demand.
Okay. That's all I wanted
well,
to ask.
okay, I understand what you're saying, but your applicant is keeping all avenues open. I'm just going to indicate
Yes.
to you that some towns view short-term rentals as commercial use, and they require mercantile permits to operate on that fashion.
That's correct.
So I don't want to mislead you or the board here. You're saying it's going to continue to be used as a certain use, and you say, but the options are open, and they are. But I just want to be clear that that may not, your idea of a particular use and mine might not agree as to whether it's residential or commercial.
My understanding is what he's saying. It's residential no matter how he uses it. If he decides to rent it out, he would have to obtain a mercantile license.
And that, we understand that
That's the
fully.
way I would see it.
Yes.
Yes, and we agree with that.
And meet the standards for a residential rental property, which include a whole raft of
That's
inspections.
not much.
None of which are objectionable. We
Whatever it
agree.
is,
Fire
it is.
inspection, a zoning inspection, that's it.
It's
But I think the
not
impact,
something a private residence is exposed
It's not a
to.
whole lot. I have a condo that I could rent out year round or summer, and it's the same inspection. They take 10 minutes, Dennis. It's not,
Okay.
it's not obtrusive, and it's not
Yeah, but I do,
extensive.
I do think that the parking impact is a little bit different, and we have seen that impact. And so, that does concern me, and I'm not asking you to make a definitive statement if you're not willing to, but it also impacts my view of the application. So I'm just being perfectly honest about that, because, other applications have come before this board. The board has approved based on the conditions, believing that a property was to be used as a residential, and it's turned into a short-term.
It's still residential use. That's the argument that
Okay,
everybody's
all right.
not getting. It's still a residential.
I understand that. I'm going to go with what was said at a planning board meeting with regard to the use residential, short-term, whatever it might be. We can disagree on the definition of that terminology, but I do believe that it's, in my opinion, having a short-term rental, residential short-term rental, transient residential rental is different than someone who's living there full-time and utilizing an accommodation for workforce housing. That's my opinion, Mr. Chairman.
So John, just to follow up on that briefly, so what we're proposing is a two-bedroom residential unit, correct?
Correct.
Whether that's owner-occupied, as we've indicated the premises is now, or it's leased out as a short-term or long-term rental, do you see a significant difference between the parking requirements or the parking, I guess, difficulties, regardless of what that use is?
No, a occupier of that unit, whether they're there on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis, are probably going to have a car. They need to park it.
Okay. So no meaningful
So-
difference that you can,
No, in fact, again, remember, a three-bedroom apartment has a higher probability of requiring more cars. Again, whether that apartment's being used on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis. So the parking demand is being reduced by the application. I'd also like to talk very briefly about the alternative. We can provide on-site parking. Not in a fully compliant manner, but we can provide on-site parking.
You would still need a parking variance.
We would, but we would be increasing or decreasing the degree of nonconformity. But not in a way that the city benefits from, because we're going to be losing street parking to do so. We quite frankly advanced a plan as part of the initial application that cut away part of the first floor of the building to make enough depth to provide 3 parking spaces on site off Lyle Lane. Now, the only way we can access them would be to remove 3 street parking spaces. So in the end, no new parking spaces were created, but we will be closer to satisfying our on-site obligation.
The first iteration of the plan actually decreased parking overall in the city. You were providing 2 on-site and you were removing 3 city spaces. So there was a
Right.
net loss of 1 parking space.
Yeah, because the first one had to be handicap
Yeah,
space.
so I don't, as a planner, I would have a hard time justifying a parking variance, making a net decrease of overall parking.
But I'm bringing that up not because we're advancing that application now, but to demonstrate for those who are having a hard time getting their heads around the variance we're seeking now, well, compared to the alternatives. And what we're proposing now, I think, is a much better alternative.
anything else, John? I know we're responding to some questions. I think that's all we have at this time, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from any members of the board?
Nope.
Greg?
I would like to summarize my June 11th, 2025 review memorandum for this application at 413, 415 Washington Street. It is located in the C1 Primary Business District. You've heard testimony from the applicants. They are seeking variances both under the C1 and C2 criteria. You'll note my review only reflects C2 because of the checklist, but they have agreed as a condition to provide a new application indicating that they did indeed seek C1 criteria variance. They've also requested a site plan, both preliminary and final, and you've heard testimony from the applicants indicating the existing and proposed use of the building, so I won't rehash that unless there's any questions from the board, and roll right into the completeness review checklist items on page 2 of 6. They've asked for waivers from items number 27, 28, and 33 for the C and D variance checklist, and they've asked for waivers from item number 3V, which is the EIS statement, and the application says that the board must specifically grant that waiver, and from 3W, the traffic impact report, and the ordinance also requires you to specifically grant that waiver, but I did recommend, if the board is supportive of those waivers, the application should be deemed complete. With regards to the variances, once again, this is located in the C1 primary commercial district. Apartments above commercial uses and retail sales are permitted uses in the zone. So we're dealing with permitted uses. With regards to the relief that's requested, this is a conforming application with respect to everything except for 2 items. Lot coverage, their maximum permitted in the district is 95%. They're essentially reconfiguring some things on site, but at the end of the day, there's an existing coverage of 99.7% where they're proposing 99.7%. So there's no increase in coverage. With regards to parking, the apartment is required to comply with the residential site improvement standards. For 3-bedroom, in the existing condition, they're required to have 2 on-site spaces. In the proposed condition, for 2-bedroom, they're required to have 1 on-site space. So there's a net decrease of 1 space in eliminating that bedroom for that apartment.
Craig, can I ask you to clarify that? What's the calculation for going 2 bedrooms down to 1 space? How does Reese's calculate that 1 space?
I'm not understanding the question.
The parking space.
Okay. So 3-bedroom, there's a requirement of 2.
Right.
2-bedroom, there's a requirement of
Right,
1.
okay.
Residential site improvement standards say when you have a fraction, it rounds down.
Rounds down.
It always rounds down. It could be
That's what I was
1.9,
asking.
and it would round down to 1.
That's what I was asking.
Gotcha. Okay. For the retail, so the retail is being increased, the retail space from 1,039 square foot to 2,999 square foot. That is an increase from an existing condition that requires 5.2 spaces. In the proposed condition, it's required 15 spaces. So there's a total requirement of 16 spaces where there's no ability to provide any on-site parking space, and that is the variance that's being requested. In my questioning and in the board's discussion, I sort of went through my methodology and criteria. I think the use of that apartment doesn't matter with regards to the treatment. It is a permitted use, but I do believe that it can weigh on the board's consideration of that parking variance because of the way our discussions with regard to the master plan, how it treats, the understanding that that area has been influenced by the lack of parking and the inability to provide on-site parking there has stagnated the ability to make conforming apartment units above the commercial uses. So the master plan is clear on that. I know we've all discussed that, so the board should be familiar with that, and I'll be happy to discuss that further if the board has any questions with regards to their consideration of that. On page 5 of 6, there was a question as to whether I considered this application under both C1 and C2 criteria. NJSA 40:55D-70, both C1 and C2 criteria are listed on page 5, and Mr. Baldini can elaborate on that if the board has questions with regards to the proofs that are required to justify those variances. Under the general review comments, page 5 of 6, under construction details, we've asked for new fire suppression connection details. I believe the fire department has also requested that, so that should be a condition of approval. Item 2 is our standard review of the stormwater and grading requirements. This is a site plan, but virtually there's no site plan improvements that are proposed with the exception of a fire department suppression connection. Is that correct? Okay. So there are very little site improvements that are required, but they do have to comply with Chapter 525, both during construction and after construction, which is to make sure that they demonstrate that they're not adversely impacting anyone with their stormwater discharge. Item number 3 should be a condition of approval, and that's city sewer and water department approval is required for the new connection. And those utility connections should be shown on the plan with the appropriate details. 4 is our standard condition that we evaluate the sidewalk after construction, and the applicant is required to replace this sidewalk to the satisfaction of the board engineer. Item 5 is a standard condition that they have to provide the required inspection escrow and that the certificate of occupancy is tied to the acceptance of the improvements. 6 is our recommendation that they comply with the requirements of the Cape May Fire Department, Police Department, Public Works Department, Environmental Commission, City Engineer, and Shade Tree Commission. A city engineer did issue a report with regards to the first iteration of the plan. That is no longer valid, so we can kind of strike that. With regards to the Environmental Commission, issued a recommendation of approval dated June 27th, 2025, with no comments. The Fire Department recommended approval with the following conditions. That's fire suppression details are needed, the fire department connection, the FDC location to be on Lyle Lane side of the building with a 2.5-inch Siamese connection. Elevator details for private access to third floor is, if planned, to be restricted. Are you acceptable to those conditions? Okay. And that's dated 6/27/25. HPC gave a notice of conceptual approval that was dated April 21, 2025. There is notation in there with regards to the first floor rear wall being relocated to accommodate parking. We can strike that because that's no longer proposed. The Police Department recommended approval with no comments dated 6/30/2025. The Public Works Department recommended approval with no comments 6/25/25. Shade Tree Commission recommended approval with the following conditions. Please, oh my goodness. What does that say? Please proceed to plant 2 plantings in the rear space provided. Thank you. You acceptable to providing 2 street trees on, I'm guessing, the Lyle Lane side?
I mean, it's something that the board really puts us to do. Frankly, it's supposed to be a pedestrian mall. It's going to hamper that pedestrian circulation, but
Okay.
the board wants us to do it.
Well, you're agreeable to do that, satisfactory to the city's review of that?
Yes.
Thank you. So that's all, that's the highlights of those recommended commissions, committees, and departments. Item number 7 is our standard condition that they have to provide the inspection escrow, and the CO is tied to that. That's a duplicate. We can strike that one. Sorry about that. 8 is the provide the required performance guarantee and inspection escrows that's required for site plans. 9 is compliance with all other state, county, and local approvals. 10 is evidence of providing final HPC approval since they got conceptual. 11 is compliance with all applicable affordable housing requirements at the time of approval, issuance of building permits or CO as applicable. And finally, should the board grant approval, they have to provide the requisite number of plans revised to address all conditions of approval that the board sets. That's a summary of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board has. I know we talked about a lot of things in that one.
Part of your comments dealt with the second and third floors of building on the mall, promoting residential uses, promoting
Right, it's a permitted use.
employing housing, which we talked about.
Right.
So we're not, this is not aggravating anything that we have talked about in the master plan.
As far as the use is concerned, the use is contemplated in this district.
Right.
And as far as our master plan reexamination is concerned, we recognize that there has been difficulty in developing these units because of a parking situation. Whether the applicant is addressing your concerns with regard to that parking situation is up to each member to decide.
And if the third floor were to be converted to commercial space, how many more parking spaces would we need instead of the residential use?
Well, you can see that the commercial area is driving the parking variance.
Right.
You know, so just say it's another 1,000 square feet, you're probably looking at another 5 parking spaces.
Right. Any other questions from members of the board for Greg? Then let me open up to the public.
That's what I was going to tell you.
Anybody in the public care to comment on the application? Okay, public portion is closed. Mike, you had a question?
No, that was just going to tell you to open it to the public.
Okay.
Don't forget.
Mr. Ammenhauser, you accept as a condition of approval the general review comments and to comply with those contained in the board engineer's report of June 11th, 2025.
We do, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any members of the board have any further comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. This application raises the perpetual problem for Cape May, which is that parking is the number one complaint that everybody has, both the residents and the visitors have, about coming to Cape May or living in Cape May. The application suggests that it is to the benefit of the community that this application double the size of the commercial space and provide this residential unit. That's their argument. I would make the same argument if I were they. On the other side of that coin, however, is that this application does significant damage to an already damaged system in this town by opening the doors once again to the theoretical and practical expansion of the need for parking. If I could put something in your mind, you've all seen, I think, the videos on YouTube as a humorous video where the Japanese subway system typically employs individuals to stand on the platform and shove the people into the subway cars. That's what's happening in Cape May with respect to parking. The commercial interests of Cape May are served by this application. The commercial interests of Cape May are viable and vibrant depending on the number of people that come down here and be customers. I get that completely. But dragging along behind the process is a set of regulations that we have to evaluate to look at the impact on our existing resources and our ability to accommodate those visitors. This application makes the situation practically worse. It makes it practically worse, and it is once again in a series of decisions which have piece by piece pulled threads out of the zoning code that we have that talks about parking. Now, I can't vote for this resolution simply because of that. I also can't vote for this resolution or this application because the question mark of whether it is or isn't a residential facility for use or for rent does have a bearing on whether or not it's going to impact that whole environment around the mall, Lyle Lane, and the park. And if it were a residential rental, there would be changeover problems. There will not be, how many cars is it? One car?
Right.
There's not going to be one car in a two-bedroom apartment. It's simply not. We know that for a fact. We know that because we looked at our residential rental impact on parking, and people come with at least one car per bedroom, and it possibly more, likely more.
Dennis, if the property owner used that unit, how many cars would he have?
Yeah, he could use it, but we're not.
But how many cars do you think he would have? One or two?
Yeah.
Well, how many cars do you think someone renting that unit would have?
How many
One or
cars?
two?
It could be one. For a weekly rental, it could be six.
It's always going to be one or two because the owner's going to be there.
A two-bedroom?
But, yeah,
He's cramming people into Volkswagen?
it depends on whether or not it's advertised as Sleep 6 or Sleeps 2 or Sleeps 3, but we're not talking about that now. We're only talking about two things in my mind. Number one, the negative impact it has on the already problematic issue of parking overall in the city. And number two, we don't know what that residential unit is going to be used for, and it could or could not have an impact.
Okay.
I can't vote for this.
We got your point.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else care to make comments?
Dennis, it does create a negative impact. However, it creates a negative impact for businesses that even want to be here. We've been kicking this parking situation down the road now for how many years? It's
Right.
not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We can't inhibit businesses from growing and expanding in this area because of parking.
Yes, and the master plan recommends that we consider that commercial district to remove all parking requirements. And if the city wants to do that, and this committee wants to recommend that the city do that, that's fine. But you can't, in my mind, you can't simply have a set of regulations that are routinely absolved.
That's why we review the ordinances, because if they are routinely absolved, we shouldn't have them to begin with.
Well, that's really my point. But we're caught in time right here with an applicant who's butting up against something that probably needs to be examined but hasn't been examined and has actually been avoided examining it for quite some time. Giving it another variance is not going to solve the problem of the city's inability to identify what they need to do about parking. So the applicant is caught in the wash. He wants to make something out of it. He wants to expand his commercial base. I don't have a problem with that.
That's what's creating the parking issue.
But that's the problem I have. I don't have a problem with saying, let's make as much money as we can. Go ahead and do that. Cape May is a business enterprise. It's really a business enterprise, so.
It's a city.
It's a city that thrives, it's a business enterprise. And to the extent that the city has a set of rules that are inhibiting that maybe the city ought to start looking at that. But the point is now, not a long-range policy discussion, but this application. This application asks for, to expand the grandfathered requirement, the grandfathered parking spaces that they have already been given for years, from 7 to 16. That's double the impact. Double the impact. I just can't bring myself to say, let's have another variance, because the next one, we had a variance back in December on this very concept, and that didn't work out well. But we're not going to bring that onto the table, but simply to say, there'll be more. There'll be more, and what do we do? Another variance? And your point, Bill, is well taken. If it's always exempted, it shouldn't even be there.
Shouldn't even be there, exactly.
I don't have a problem with saying that. What I have a problem with saying is if we don't do something about it, we can't just simply expand the bubble. And so this application brings me to a point where I'd say, God bless you for trying to do this. The hardship that you talk about is not the hardship that I see. The hardship I see is on the city. And so that's why I can't support it.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're talking about a business that's in a place where the people already are.
Theoretically.
It's a pedestrian mall. They're already there. You're not drawing, they're drawing from the people that are there.
Theoretically.
So
Not theoretically.
that's the way it is. They're on the mall.
They don't walk from the dry dock to go to the mall. They're on the mall already.
The mall creates the parking problem, not the businesses, the whole concept of it. You can't blame one business for that.
I'm not blaming one business for anything. What I'm blaming is that the code provides for something that's never been required.
Dennis, we got you.
Okay, I'm just answering, Rick.
Just for the point of voting, Dennis, I think you're not going to be, probably not voting. I just want, we have 10 members here and one alternate's not allowed to vote. You're allowed to speak on it if you want to. Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, I do. So this is, to me, not the application having to do with the expansion of the business. You have a nice plan. It looks well thought out. And the impact to the parking from a commercial expansion, I wouldn't have any problem if it was that alone. My concern is that we're having the creation of a residential area on the third floor that is undefined, and not knowing whether or not that would be used for the owner and a full-time, year-round, or become transient. And the transient does have a different impact in that area. You have cars coming and going when there's changeover, the frequency of the changeover, cleaning services coming in, all of those things that occur. Dennis is right, Mr. Crowley is right. The city has to take on the onus of taking a look at how these spaces should be used and could be used. And it may be that we will be redefining how short-term rentals are in this city, and especially when it comes to this location. Because if we're going to want property owners to expand on workforce housing there, it needs to be used for workforce housing. and not adding more Airbnbs, Verbos, and transient accommodations. That is not the place for it. It just exacerbates an already known and existing parking issue by adding that in as a dimension. So I have no again, if this was strictly on the commercial side of this application, on the first 2 floors, I would be fine with it. But for me, the 3rd floor is just really, it's standing out, and it's being undefined at this point. And you have the right to do that. I understand we can't put a condition on the application. If we could, I would ask for it. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Anybody else care to make a comment? All right, then, we'll vote on the, we'll vote on the application with the variances all in one fell swoop.
If that's what you'd like, you want to vote C1 and C2
Yes.
separate?
No,
Them all at once?
I think they've agreed to bring them together.
All at once?
We're fine with doing it through one vote, yeah.
That's fine. And so, just so you're clear, it'll be C1, C2. It'll also be the preliminary and final site plan approval with the site plan and waivers sought by the applicant. And those were identified in a June 11, 2025 letter of the board engineer.
Okay. Somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Deputy Mayor McDade, seconded by Mr. Jones. Mayor Mullick?
First off, I think it's a beautiful design and major upgrade to that building. And frankly, I hope it happens. But I do have a problem with the undefined 3rd floor. I think for decades, we've had discussion on the planning board, and largely, there's a lot of buildings on the mall that remain empty to this day, which I think is absurd, frankly. I think there should be workforce housing. But as it exists today, you have the owner who lives there and runs the shop. And I think, frankly, that's the definition of mixed use, and I think that's a wonderful way to do it. And I think that's what makes Cape May Cape May. You have that the people right there, our workers that are right there. I think that makes all the sense in the world. Weekly rental in that situation, I just don't support, and therefore I vote no.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
For my previously stated position, no.
Mrs. Reed?
I concur with Deputy Mayor and the mayor. I think that you're unwilling to lock yourself into a owner residency tells me that it's not going to be a owner residency. And there's so many problems with people coming in and out with their luggage, double parking because they can't get a place to park on the mall, beach chairs, whatever. It's just not right. I can't vote for it. I'm sorry, no.
Mr. Crowley?
No.
Mr. Lundholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Listened to the testimony. Obviously, I asked a few questions with that. I agree with the mayor and the deputy mayor and their sentiments on that undefined 3rd floor. I believe that a traffic impact study is probably actually needed, in my opinion, because of the unknown to it. So I'm going to be voting no.
Mr. Badousis?
You know, I made a statement that we can't stop businesses from trying to grow in Cape May. And we just want to address this parking issue in Cape May. However, I have to vote no on this issue because it just wouldn't be right to have this as a short-term rental in Cape May. We don't have the parking. We need to address it. We finally need to address it. When are we going to address the parking in Cape May? I asked the mayor, I asked the deputy mayor, when? Let's get it done. Look what we're doing. So for that, again, I'm voting no.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Becerra?
I'm voting yes, and the comment I have to make is I found it somewhat hypocritical that it's okay to create a parking variance for 6 or 7 cars that don't exist that are going to be created for the commercial use, but to deny an application because there's one residential parking space that does not, that is not part of a meat of this application. And I don't quite understand it, but that's where we are. Okay.
Thank you. Bill, am I allowed to ask questions or no?
No, sir.
No?
No. No, you've rendered your decision.
Well, I know, for bringing it back, trying to understand what to do to.
I don't know that I'm not sure any of us have the answer for that. I don't know.
Thanks,
Okay. We have next on the agenda, payment of bills. They just got passed out.
I'll make a motion, to pay the bills.
Second.
Third.
Motion by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Lundholm. Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed? Mr. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Lundholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Mr. Badusas?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bezier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't have anything else for the board? then?
Just,
Yeah.
we have some balls in the air still with the master plan implementation stuff. This was one of them.
Yep.
The R4 district, has been mentioned. I'm not sure if it's just looking for a consensus of the board as to what direction you would like me to focus on next and prepare a report and with recommendations.
I sort of thought the R4 was the,
Yeah,
I would say from my perspective, I'm getting questions constantly. So, I really would like for us to do a little bit more work in that area,
Yep. Bill, I would agree too. I think the R4 is way beyond time to get looked at.
Yes.
And, but I also would like, following this discussion, I would also like to suggest that we go to the master plan and take a look at everything it says about parking and get serious about helping the city get to a solution to this problem. And there are solutions. But I wouldn't at this point recommend that we scrub the ordinances with respect to parking. But I think we need to look at what is reasonably available to us to do for the city council to give them a way to address parking that doesn't cause this kind of a problem every time one of these applications come up.
one of them, what we discussed tonight was on the mall, it's impossible to provide parking. We're kidding ourselves that we haven't had that requirement.
Well, the master plan recommendation does include, as Craig said, it does include references to the lack of the usage of those apartments in the mall, but it also talks about a parking garage.
It does.
And so every time you mention the word parking garage in this town, somebody throws up in your face, and it's just about time because we are.
Become more palatable. I've mentioned it to a few people that is, it's a distant consideration, and people I've spoken to have actually had a fairly good reaction.
We need something like that. We need to be, we're as popular, if not more so, than, for example, Annapolis. And they have a public parking garage right in the middle of their town. And so there are, trust me, I have some experience in this issue. Maureen, you probably know this.
Yes.
There are lots of ways to design, fund, and support that kind of a resource for the city. And in fact, public-private partnerships are available all over the place. Our master plan recommends public-private partnerships in a lot of different things. It's time to just stop listening to everybody cluck their tongue and say, God, the parking's terrible around here. We need to do something about that. And I think this committee, it falls in this committee as a planning board to address the issue and make some recommendations to council that they can actually deal with. And then, frankly, it's the council's job to run with that ball. But if they don't have that information and they don't have that support from this board, it'll never get done. Parking is the most complained about thing in this town. And the more you attract people to this town, and we're on the top 10 list of every survey and every travel magazine, the more we want as many people as possible coming to Cape May. but we don't want them, pardon my French, bitching and moaning about parking and maybe not come back because of that. So we need to be serious about it. We're not a little town in the middle of nowhere. We're the number one tourist destination in everybody's mind. People come here, and the evidence of that is clear enough, and I happen to live across the street from it. The temporary use of our Lafayette Street Park for free parking is clear evidence that there are a lot of people who come to this town and don't find a place to park. When that park gets done, those people are still going to want to come. But where are they going to park? Every night of the summertime, there's at least 200 cars in that lot. And that means 200 spaces. And you know who those 200 spaces are? They're the 16
A
people.
lot of them are employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I do want to, just to go back, and not to cut you off, Mr. Crowley, but the thing that we need to immediately discuss as a planning board, as a council, is the workforce housing and how we can utilize those apartments on the mall. And however we need to define that area so that it is not getting turned into a short-term rental transient environment, we need to do. It's critically important. If they're sitting empty and there's an opportunity there, and it makes perfect sense to look at that and say, what do we need to do as a city to make it attractive for the property owners to use those for workforce
Now,
housing?
let me just gently push back on you a little bit.
Of
We
course,
just
gently.
penalized
Gently.
this guy.
Because workforce,
We just penalized this guy terribly I'm not sure for what. I mean, if he was going to use it as an owner occupied, he's still going to have cars there. He's still going to have coming and going all the time. How do you? Well, I'll tell you what, my vote on that would not have, the variance would not have affected that at all. My thinking on the variance would have stayed the same if we let this guy have it for somebody else to park. It wouldn't have changed my idea about the variance at all.
I have a question. So he came before us on another property,
Correct,
right?
He did, I remember.
And we approved it
correct.
because his workers were going to be living above. If he had come tonight and said, I'm going to have my manager of the store live there or an employee live there, would this have changed everybody's vote?
That's what sense I got.
But he never said he was renting that short term. We did.
Well, that's another thing. He never said that.
Well,
But
no, actually,
if he had come before us and said, I'm going to have this for my employees, that third floor,
And is that
would it
what
have
he's
changed
doing?
your mind?
Is that what he's using it for?
no, in that
He
discussion.
didn't say it. He didn't state
Gary,
what he was using it for.
In that
No,
discussion,
what he
So,
previously
members,
stated.
if I could just interrupt for 1 second, thank you. So you can talk in general terms
Can't talk
of your parking plans. Right,
Okay.
You voted and you all expressed your opinions during the hearing, so you have to limit your comments to general comments and not rediscuss this past application because the applicant's not here. and
Go
not-
Phillies.
Yeah,
Here-
vote's over, it's done.
here's a general comment. To push,
There you go.
to push back on Maureen's point just a little bit, workforce housing is a problem. Workforce housing is not the city's responsibility. It's a problem that needs to be solved jointly and cooperatively between the people who those people work for and the city. If there were an option, or if there were an issue, in my mind, if there were an issue that screamed out for public-private partnership, it's workforce housing. And if any approach going forward, this is why I said it a minute ago, any approach going forward must include that sort of cooperative arrangement. We can't, and if we were to say, recommend that workforce housing be used in all the apartments in the mall as an ordinance, that's not good enough in my mind.
I'm not, yeah, well.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't limit it to that. I would certainly say that it requires some communication with those business owners from the city.
Yes.
And this is just strictly my opinion. This is not the deputy mayor speaking here, but sitting down and saying, how can we encourage
Yes,
this
yes.
development? What is it that we can do to help you as a city to do it? Because I do believe that we have a responsibility. in some, from a context standpoint.
This is an issue that screams
There
out
are
for a
some-
task
there are
force.
some employers who buy property specifically.
Well, I was just about to say that. They've already done
And
that.
there are neighbors of those houses who complain about it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
What's going to happen if someone puts an application to make
Yeah.
4 apartments,
Complain that
a
way.
4-bedroom apartment above the mall, based on tonight, we're turning it down.
Well, I kind of,
no, we can't talk.
I'm not going to talk about the application. I want to talk about the mall and the current situation. My understanding, and Bill, you would be the perfect one to correct me, is there's been applications in the past, and there's a reason that there's a lot of second and third floor not apartments, that are just laying empty because they weren't given the variance because of
They
parking.
never applied.
Or just never
Never
applied.
applied. They never came.
Or,
We don't see them.
but maybe have seen a denial in the past and said, hey, they're not going to approve
I
it.
don't remember a denial. This is
Okay.
This is the first denial that I remember on the mall.
There was an application back in the day, the Fudge Kitchen, the owners of the Fudge Kitchen changed, they had storage only was their condition.
That's across the street from them.
And then they changed it because of workforce housing. You guys did this in the last 6 years since I've been here, so.
Zoning board, actually.
The
Was
tendency
the
has
zoning
been
board? Okay.
the fact that they have to come get site plan approval and get variance approval has essentially chased them away and
It adds a
been a,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, I mean, that was part of our discussion in the master plan read.
My only point is, I do think it's silly to have valuable real estate like that sitting empty, but I don't necessarily take the leap that the answer is they should all be converted into weekly rentals. I just, to me, that's my stumbling point.
Well, then you've got to have a carrot for the workforce housing.
Yes.
You can't say it has to be this.
So what do you think it should
You
be?
offer enough incentive.
That's
that-
my
that- that-
point
that the
exactly.
work-
Bill, what do you think it should be?
What's the incentive?
Yeah,
They don't have to get any approvals. If they want to rent for their help, they just rent for their help.
they can.
Now,
Yeah.
but the thing is, you've got businesses that don't have second floors, or that are maybe removed from the mall. Can their employees be put, yes, and that, to coordinate that, I don't know. How do you verify that? And then you're gonna have, you gotta regulate them. Now they gotta pay mercantile licenses, you gotta, inspections, all that kind of stuff. And it just gets to be onerous. And employee housing is, you're giving up a lot of money
Yeah.
to provide employee housing.
Yeah, so back to my original suggestion, can we put together some sort of a task force to look at this problem head-on in this committee?
Well, it's-
With the
it's
help
got-
of-
It's got to be multifaceted, because you can't just say we want workforce housing. If you're all, in the same breath, you're talking about a parking garage, that's generally not going to be workforce housing. Or parking for workforce housing. I would not think. I mean,
No, I'm not, I don't want to suggest that workforce housing is not the issue, to me. It's a secondary one. The issue is, our parking regulations create an unattainable standard. And the city, as it gets popular and more so, is going to be, the parking is the problem. Workforce housing is a section of that. Parking is the problem.
no question. It's been that way for, since I
Right.
can remember.
And-
Every shore town has the same issue.
Right, well, to a certain degree.
Ocean City, they complain about, why would they complain about it? And the one on Lafayette Street, however the city got that to be parking is a great accomplishment. I just thought because there was Blue Acres and Green Acres funds provided for that, you were never going to be able to park.
They're probably breaking some regulations
It's not
somewhere.
going to stay like that.
Yeah, but anybody who rides by there sees
That's what I'm-
these cars.
that's my point. It's not
It's
gonna stay like that.
an advertisement that you need a parking garage.
At any rate, yeah, we'll have to, again, we're doing master plan stuff as soon as we can. We've got 2 applications.
I
coming.
believe that the consensus was, I'm going to start with the R4 stuff.
Who?
R4.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that is.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chairman, I think, just kind of speaking on behalf of City Council, if the planning board were to have suggestions on specifically the mall and any other workforce housing, I mean, I think,
The old traditional answer is we could form a subcommittee, and they could start putting some things together to bring to, if anybody would, if you want to do that tonight.
I'd be happy to sit on that subcommittee.
Pardon me?
I'd be happy to sit on
That's
it.
kind of scary, Dennis.
I mean, I would, Mayor, I would Mayor, I would have a bifurcate that and talk about what we're talking about here, but also bring up the parking garage again.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
Yes,
you
Mike.
can do both at the same time.
Yes, yes. That's a profile in courage, frankly, because everybody, because as Dennis points out, the tide might be changing. And if you could design and create and market and fund a parking garage that does a lot of things,
I've always thought that the problem with that was just there were louder voices. That was it.
yeah,
There were louder voices against it.
yes.
There should have been a lot more
That's because-
common sense people working on
It
this.
has to be funded by the city, and then there's that.
No, there's not, that doesn't necessarily mean
Well, it doesn't have to
done
be
that way.
fun, but,
That's that perception.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
all right.
Well, okay, I'll get 3 people who want to start a parking committee and have meetings and kick around some idea, 3 or 4 of you, besides Dennis.
So maybe,
I'm not smart enough.
anybody want to?
I'd be happy to, if you
That-
would
Dennis,
like me,
obviously,
Mr. Chairman.
You're going to want to be on it. I'm not
Yeah.
just being facetious.
Yeah, and I do. I have a lot of feelings about this, and I have a lot of research on it, too, so
Gary,
it
you
could
wanna
be
chip in?
helpful.
All right, I'll get that, I'll volunteer.
Okay. The 3 of you and the 3 Musketeers and D'Artagnan over here.
And we can have our meetings at the brewery,
Oh,
right?
in all my free time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so you guys can call your own meetings and
Yeah, okay.
banter about and see if you can come up with some ideas. In the meantime, we'll try to tackle the R4. Okay? All right, final motion?
Move, we adjourn?
Okay, thank you, guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.